Our next panel is about the Move ecosystem. And so I'd like to start inviting our panelists onto the stage for this panel called the Move ecosystem. This panel is slightly shorter, but we have some great panelists on stage here. That's great. I'll start out by introducing myself. So hello, everyone. My name is John Jones, co-founder of SupraOracles and also core contributor of MoveDAO, which helps sponsor MoveCon. Hopefully, each one of you can also become core contributors as well. Supra is a robust and low latency oracle. We currently deliver our price feed data to 40 plus chains. Most of them are EVM, but also Move-based chains, Aptos and Sui, and more to come. Supra also has a VRF function, so a randomness function for GameFi. And so currently we are delivering our randomness in VRF, distributed VRF to 30 plus chains. We recently got 2 academic journals, papers published in prestigious academic journals. One was our core Oracle protocol called Dora that got accepted to ICD-CS academic journal, and as well as our distributed VRF, which Dr. Kate talked about briefly earlier, got accepted to the CCS academic journal. So why don't we? I'll go in order from the panelists that are here. Maybe Nadia from Ethos, you can introduce yourself and your project.
Yeah, and thanks to MoveDAO for hosting this. I'm Nadia. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ethos. We're trying to reinvent the wallet on the Sui blockchain to really be the hub for discovering and experiencing applications. We've got a few different products ahead of mainnet. We have a lot of infrastructure for developers to help make onboarding easy, both in sort of a traditional Connect wallet functionality, as well as onboarding walletless users with email. We've got the wallet itself, which really is oriented to be sort of a portal for apps and dynamic experiences as enabled by SuiMove. That's currently available on mobile, on Chrome extension and browser-based Explorer, with mobile coming soon. And then we were one of the earliest teams building on Sui, so we built a lot of applications like the game Sui 192. The goal was really to create fun early experiences and inspire other builders. Really honored to be a part of this crew tonight. It's an awesome panel, and I think just an absolute snapshot of what makes the Move ecosystem great. So thanks for facilitating us, John.
Thanks, Nadia. Okay, Sean from SuiNS, please introduce yourself and your project.
Sure thing. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having us. My name is Sean. I'm the founder of SuiNS, or Sui Name Service. We're building identity services on the Sui blockchain. If you aren't familiar with us, we have multiple name services. Specifically, our .Sui name service is built for representing your identity and wallet on the Sui blockchain. We're also building an object naming service, the .Move service, that allows companies to represent their contracts and resources that they have on the Sui blockchain as well. If you get a chance, we've gone live on testnet with our auction functionality, and so you can go try that out today. Thanks for having us.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm here from Alphalab Capital. Alphalab Capital is a market-making firm that's been around since 2017, and I head our venture investments arm. We currently have 3 Move ecosystem companies in our portfolio. They are MoveX, which just helped to build a DeepBook, Panem, and we've invested in a new DEX on Aptos as well, which has not yet been launched, called Ferrum. So very excited about the opportunities in the Move ecosystem and happy to be supporting founders.
Thanks, Julia. Sorry, my mic was muted and I was quickly trying to find the unmute. But Jasmine, we've seen each other at many different events and many countries, but yeah, please introduce yourself and what you're doing.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. This is Jasmine, co-founder from Move Accelerator. Since last May, we began to make bilingual contents and build out the developer community and host some events. And ever since that, we are the most influential community in APAC. So with more than 13 VCs and communities and organizer DAOs, we launched the Move Accelerator to provide comprehensive acceleration and incubation service, including fundraising, technology, community branding, and PR for Move projects. We are the first one-stop accelerator only for Move. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. And also Stanley, I've seen you everywhere you go. Taipei, Hong Kong, Denver, everywhere I go, I see you. Please introduce yourself and your project.
Thanks for stalking me. No, just kidding. Thanks for inviting, and also hosting this really magnificent event. My name is Stanley. Some people call me SuperStan. I'm from Bware Labs. We are a full-service infrastructure company that provides RPC services, decentralized RPC services, and also validator services. We currently validates 33 different blockchains, and also RPC supports about 24 different networks and blockchain. Of course, include Aptos and Sui. We work very closely with the Aptos and Sui teams. Recently, we just actually introduced the liquid staking smart contract on together with the Aptos team for the mainnet, and enable the further decentralization of the network. We also build functions, backend functions like faucet functions for Sui. And so our RPC services, we support a lot of the newer and startups from the Move ecosystem. So I'm glad to be here and answer your questions, and also share our experience working with the partners. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Stanley. And Fodé, you're the only person that I haven't met in person yet. You're from Mamoru Network and also Zokyo. I would love for you to do a self-introduction and about yourself and your project.
Sure. So my name is Fodé. I'm a long-term like a smart contract developer from back in the early days in San Francisco. Then I moved over to worked on Bitcoin and Lightning for a while, and then I kind of like transitioned over again to going like cross-chain with Wormhole, and then now just keeping an open mind basically about the whole entire blockchain ecosystem. I've always been fascinated about like cybersecurity and machine learning specifically. So I had a chance to combine those three, smart contract, cybersecurity, and machine learning over at Mamoru. So right now we are working on a product for real-time threat detection for basically blockchains. We initially got our grant from the Sui Foundation, actually over in Lisbon. Initially we were like one of those winners. And then we ended up basically building a MVP or like a pre-beta product right now, and I can tell you more about it later. So we are currently supporting Aptos chain, Sui blockchain, and some EVMs as well. And we are fully deployed on Aptos and Sui on Move for the Move ecosystem. So I can talk about that as well.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. As we can see, the Move ecosystem, or an ecosystem in general, consists of a lot of different organizations and people. We have builders, entrepreneurs, developers, VCs, accelerators. We have mentorship, security auditors, wallets, identity management, developer tooling, and also the community and much more, right? So I guess my question to the panel at large is, knowing that there are so many pieces to the puzzle of building an ecosystem. Currently, in the Move ecosystem, of course, we have different layer ones. We have DeFi protocols, gaming companies, and all the other ecosystem participants that we mentioned. What are some of the things in the Move ecosystem that are that need improvement? Or we can actually mention first what is actually doing really well, and second, what are areas of improvement for the Move ecosystem to grow and to accelerate this, accelerate the use of the Move programming language, and to accelerate the use of Move VM and such. And so maybe we can start with Jasmine, since as the Move Accelerator in general, you might have a good idea of really how the many pieces involved in growing this ecosystem.
Since we're building this ecosystem and we are running the accelerator, we just announced our full list of our first batch last week of our 12 members. Over the past 3 months, we have received more than 115 applications, and then most of them are going to deploy or already deploy on Sui and Aptos. And their first priority is to get funds, to survive during the bear markets. So my from my perspective, the first point is about how to help eco projects to raise money, especially even because we have wait for the stream mainnet for a long time. Maybe after the mainnet, some project can make a revenue from that. It's very important. So I fully understand why Stream official hurry to launch mainnets, because that will benefit the whole ecosystem participants. Yeah, that's the first point. And second point, because Move is a unique system, different from Ethereum, the mainstream in this space. So we have a long way to go to acquire more developers to build. Yeah, they need to learn Move from the very beginning and know how to develop their own dApps up to Sand 3. So how to lower the barrier for developers to get on board, like more educational contents, some courses in different languages, and how to give them sufficient incentives, like not only the developer grant or some hackathon events. We have more different ways to get them on board, and how to start to build more easily. Yeah, that's the second point. And for the third point, because the early adopters of Move language is the developers, right? And now we need more product engineers to share the insights. What kind of application will be the highlight of a Move system? How to build unique applications only on Sui or Move. Yeah, so we need the insights from the PM, the insight and strategy from PM engineers, not only the developers. So, because I personally is in Vietnam recently, I noticed that their developers are very strong. They will launch their products very quickly, but they need a good taste for the product. How to just delete the unimportant features, only focus on the main feature of your product. So that's how we may help the local projects. And I see that is a common problem of many teams to develop your product, because technology is only a tool. The point is to use your product to satisfy the needs from your users. Just focus on the important features. Yeah, that's the 3 points I want to share with everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, I mean, to your first point, one of the initial problems that you're helping solve startups in your ecosystem or through the Move Accelerator are initial funding, right? And that's a huge part of building ecosystems. So I think maybe Julia, if you'd like to speak to from a VC's perspective and investment perspective, what are some of the challenges? Why are you or Alphalab Capital looking at the Move ecosystem specifically, and what are you looking for in terms of investment for the short term, long term, and any insights you'd like to give from that perspective?
Sure. So there's the sort of the basic things that VCs always look for, which is, a strong team, good product, differentiated, et cetera, et cetera. I think specifically with investing in Move ecosystem or investing in any kind of new blockchain, right? There's a suite of applications that just need to exist. So you need your wallets, you need your DEXs, you need your kind of liquid staking, et cetera. And so I think one thing that's already happened is you've sort of seen a proliferation of projects that are kind of meeting these essential building blocks across the Move ecosystem. Beyond that, I think to kind of circle back around to your earlier question around, how does a blockchain really achieve liftoff, right? I think what it comes down to is a killer app. Like Solana, for example, became very well known for NFTs. I think Uniswap was one of the earlier kind of killer products on Ethereum, right? And so when there's a killer application that's not just copy paste of something else that is already well established on another blockchain, but a truly innovative, application. And then that's where you get dramatic increases in user adoption. And then the VCs follow the user adoption, because if we see that, wow, there's all of these people using this new thing, VCs get really excited about that. And then they want to invest in the blockchain. And then the developer activity, I think, follows the funding, right? Because then you have developers who have the resources, have the capital, and they're also incentivized to kind of build on this blockchain. So I think fundamentally it comes to that. And we do make a distinction when we think about our investing between investing in sort of proven business models versus investing in founders that are really trying to kind of push the envelope and innovate and do something new, right? It's like business model risk versus execution risk. So I think that when I look at the Move ecosystem, I see opportunity for both. So the more established business models, like wallets, DEXs, etc. What we're looking for there is really the growth of the ecosystem, and then also that specific project's ability to bring in users, to their project, and then as a consequence into the Move ecosystem. And then the thing that I'm really hunting for, which is much harder to find, right, is projects that are trying to create some kind of new business model, some kind of new product that we haven't seen.
Definitely. I was seeing in the Move ecosystem, specifically, Aptos and Sui, but specifically with the object-centric model. I'm just imagining new use cases every day, and of course, some startups are starting to use that object-centric model where assets own other assets, and to infinity. It seems like there's a lot more dynamic applications and assets that can be built there. I want to go, Jasmine did mention another point about developers, getting kind of developers in the space. And I know that Move is a derivative of Rust, but there's a high demand for Move developers at the moment. And it is actually quite a big pain point for a lot of projects in the ecosystem. But maybe this question, I have a question that maybe Fodé could answer. From a security auditor's point of view, what are some of the benefits of the Move programming language for developers that are thinking about getting into Move? What are some reasons why they might want to, besides the fact that there's high salaries being paid for finding Move developers, but also from a security perspective, what is it about Rust and Move that are interesting from a security perspective?
Sure. Well, like security is very subjective in another sense, right? Because it's really, security is as secure if the person supposedly writing the code has the skills and is up to par to the task to write secure code, if I can put it that way, right? That's really what security actually means, right? I think for me, like, I actually got excited about Move because I started back in 2017, 2016, basically writing Solidity. This is like the early days, right? I remember vividly the night actually the DAO hack happened, when I'm looking at this contract being drained in real time and actually thinking about it, really actually how could that possibly happen, actually, right? So now you fast forward a few years later, we have this seemingly more secure language, But for me, two things actually really stick out with Move. One being that if you notice the last few years, like Rust has been the most beloved language by developers in general, right? There's actually reasons for doing so, because Rust actually has this compiler or this borrow checker that kind of works as your friend. This is like almost like early ChatGPT almost, right? Because it actually is very verbose, and it kind of like tells you a little bit more, like points you specifically to like errors in your code, and you can pretty much code actually like really fix these things. And also it actually also like prevents some errors that used to happen a lot with languages like C++, right? C++ is famous for being like a language where you could easily shoot yourself on the foot itself, right? Because you do like a lot of memory management. There's actually really manual memory management, and the memory model in Rust itself by default makes it actually where a lot of those actually initial problems with C++ itself, language like C++, which let's say like Bitcoin Core is written into, written in, then you can basically by default avoid those actually problems with Rust. And basically because Move is a subset, or Move actually basically is a Rust dialect, for one, right? Two, the choice is made by designing the SUI Move itself, right? Yes, we know all the good things, like it's actually object centric. There's not a problem of like dynamic dispatch, like with the with the EVMs, right? Where there's like no problems like re-entrance, the DAO hack, and all that stuff, right? So all that stuff by default actually is pretty much like avoided. But to me as a developer, one key element is the fact that the assets themselves do not live inside the smart contract, which means that actually, if an contract gets if there's a problem, there's a bug, or if a contract actually gets like compromised, then my assets are not at risk. And also, like if I do like cross-chain lending, or if I do cross-chain basic activities, which means that actually the way it's done today, which actually has it like where there's a lot of inherent risk along the chain itself, right? But Move by default actually, because the assets are always, the user is always actually in possession of the assets, it makes it actually very, very difficult for all these like stupid problems that happen before the smart contract. And that's why, personally, I actually really like the Move programming language.
Thank you, Fodé. You made some very great points. I mean, I'm personally learning Move and Rust at the moment, and I realized that assets on Rust and Move they're immutable by default, and you have to actually make it mutate it on purpose if you want to, and therefore that makes it a little bit more secure. You mentioned the number one reason why you like Move for security purposes is that the assets don't live in a smart contract, and the assets are actually held by the end user. That's great. Thank you so much, Fodé. So we do have limited time, so I've just been asking one question per person, and hopefully we can get along doing that. But I'd like to move on to a question that I'd like to ask Stanley from Bware. Specifically, the question is about the Ethereum ecosystem parallel, and are we going to see numerous layer 1, layer 2 chains building on core Move or Move variants like Sui Move? Are we going to see similar parallels to other ecosystems in the Move ecosystem, where we just have many layer 1s, layer 2s, and validators that will be eventually validating for multiple ecosystems? I mean, we're all one ecosystem, but multiple chains. What do you think about that, Stanley?
Yeah. So actually, this question is probably I would relate to Julius earlier mentioned that the VCs, the money leads the taste, right? And if they have the appetite for funding new projects, new layer 1, multiple layer 1s, then there's going to be more newer projects coming out. And if the whole market is trying to wait and see how the current ecosystem is developing and doing, and they just hold their funds and wait until a better time to deploy it. That's more of the objective view of that. From our point of view, generally speaking, we would like to see more projects launching. Despite that there's a adoption for newer Move engineers and users are not quite there yet. But we'd like to see something that's, for example, if they have utilized the underlying strengths of the Move language and develop newer and also more innovative infrastructure, then there might be actually leads to some newer dApps or newer way of utilizing newer infrastructure that might actually lead to a completely different user experience at the end user side. So we are actually thinking that if there's going to be more people jumping into the infrastructure side, utilizing what Move itself can do, and try to come up with more innovative infrastructure that will really be beneficial for the whole ecosystem. On the other hand, something I also wanted to mention is that from the infrastructure side, something that's in the Ethereum ecosystem that seems to be, pretty natural and easy to do might turn out to be, a little bit challenging in the Move language wise. For example, on Aptos, we back in November last year, we realized that for the delegated staking, you need a 1 million APT token minimum. And how can we make this, become more like decentralized? Everybody with even just 10 token, 11 token, 20 token can actually delegate. You could probably think that's an easy task to complete on the other language, but when it comes to Move, our smart contract team worked very, very hard with Aptos core team for the last 4 or 5 months and try to finalize a thing like that. So it's just not there yet for a lot of these equivalent, if you want to move certain things from the Ethereum side onto Move, it just doesn't seem that easy. So we hope that more engineers can come in and contribute more to the whole ecosystem. So then you make the onboarding of new and developers onto the ecosystem more friendly, and when they arrive, they have all the tools they need. They don't have to struggle and wait for things to happen.
Great. Thank you, Stanley. So we do have limited time. I want to go back to the first question specifically for Sean and Nadia about how we can really accelerate the Move ecosystem more. What are things that we're doing well, and what are areas of improvement? And I know, like, for both of your projects, for Ethos Wallet and SuperStan, these are forms of identity in some sense, right? For users. And maybe Sean, I'd like to ask you first. What are areas of improvement? What are we doing well in the Move ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think that I think we're doing a lot of things well, right? I mean, when I look at the Move ecosystem in general, it's a very mature ecosystem. The builders that are here, they're second, third generation builders. This isn't the first blockchain they've built on, right? And so I think when we want to think about how we improve it, a lot of focus has been around the developers. I think where we'd like to focus is expanding out to how do we onboard users that have not been using blockchain previously. And I think a lot of the panelists here had answered the same question. The thing that was ringing out in my head is, and this might sound a little bit weird, like obsession and addiction, which I know this sounds odd, but the DApp or the game or some kind of a platform that gets the community excited, that gets everyone just obsessed, right? Because we're building a lot of core infrastructure that we see on other blockchains, and you need that to be a mature, ecosystem. But, technology for technology's sake doesn't necessarily drive growth, right? And you can have amazing technology and what you think is an amazing product, but it never really hits. I always think of Zune with Microsoft versus iPod, right? And so I think where we need to improve is just getting the message out, building differentiation and uniqueness in terms of the applications on top, and getting a user base, a community, an audience that's obsessed and addicted to what we're building on the Sui blockchain or in Move ecosystems in general.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, we definitely need that addicting on-ramp, and maybe that'll come from gaming. Maybe it'll come from SocialFi. But oftentimes from like some of the VCs that I speak to, it's harder to invest in GameFi or games or SocialFi. It's sometimes easier to invest in infrastructure. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes out, what special, like, addicting, fun game or social application can be built in the Move ecosystem. Maybe Nadia, I'll give you a chance to speak about what are some of the areas that we're doing well in the Move ecosystem, and what are areas of improvement?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back at sort of the earlier panels tonight, one theme that stood out to me over and over was community and ecosystem, where you have builders from all across the maps, Web2 game developers, folks with deep DeFi experience coming from other chains, coming together to talk about what can Move enable. And so I think that early developer as well as end user community is incredibly powerful. I know for us, we are a wallet, but we are also kind of taking that approach of creating early sort of Sui Move specific applications, like fully on-chain games with Sui 192 or Cappy AI on Testnet Wave 2. And I think one thing that I found really surprising is, testnet and devnet fundamentally are different from mainnet. They're not stable experiences. They're not meant to be. But we found just a ferocious appetite from our community and the early Sui users to really want to engage with these experiences, to try new things, to create AI backgrounds for their, Sui capybara. And so I think that sort of early community is incredibly powerful and something that we want to nurture. I don't think it would, be living to Sui Move and Move's full potential if the ecosystem looked exactly like every other blockchain ecosystem. I think there's really sort of the opportunity to have sort of this rising tide float all boats, and to Sean's point, to bring in developers and users who are not necessarily familiar with the blockchain today. And I think that's immensely powerful. I think to the flip side, like what do we sort of need to see? What could be done better? I think to the sort of early points brought up by Julia and Jasmine, I think it's really leaning into what Move enables in terms of applications and really the creativity, the object centricity, as we were talking about, the benefits and security. It really, Move is enabling more creativity, more innovation, because it's reducing the amount of risk that developers have to take to create new kinds of experiences. And I think that is immensely powerful. And I really hope to see more builders sort of lean into that. And I think there's lots of different ways to lean in, from creating tools and infrastructure for other builders to help them, or, really just going onto the bleeding edge and taking that at that killer creative out there consumer application. But I think that's something where we need to see more creativity. We need to see more use cases for the ecosystem to really live up to its full potential and the potential of this technology leap forward. Builders need to be taking risks, experimenting, getting creative. And I think that the Move language really enables that. So that's something that we're going to continue to do in the Ethos team. And we're really excited to see and support other teams that are sort of pushing it forward. I think there's some great examples here. Even, Sean, with the main service, you're doing things differently. And so I think that's something that's just immensely powerful and special. And I hope to see a lot more of as this ecosystem grows.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nadia. So we are going over time. I do want to allow everyone to speak in really quick. Julia had to head out for a meeting, so she respectfully mentioned that. Maybe we can spend about a minute each, 30 seconds to a minute, to really talk about what are your current projects aiming to support for the Move ecosystem. What are some upcoming developments? So basically you have 30 seconds to a minute to share what you'd like about your company and what exciting things that you all are doing. And maybe Nadia, we'll start with you since you were just speaking, and then we'll go around.
Sounds good. Oh my goodness, 30 seconds. I mean, number one, Sui mainnet May 3rd coming up, very exciting. For us, we're building 3 things in sort of the Ethos Wallet portfolio. One is developer infrastructure. The key changes there are adding APIs to give more sort of front-end flexibility. So if someone's building a game, for example, it can really feel like native to that game in terms of how you're implementing Connect Wallet or sign in for walletless users. The second piece is really trying to make that wallet sort of a hub for applications and dynamic experiences. I know there's the concept of XNFTs on other chains, but with Move, you can really make dynamic applications because of the object centricity of it. So that is a big change that we are bringing to Sui. And then the third piece is applications. So we've built a lot of fully on-chain applications that are mostly open source, just meant to sort of be inspiration, to be fun. And now that we know more about what mainnet will look like, we're starting to think about what can Sui Move on mainnet really do. So we'll be bringing some fun app experiences. There will definitely be different flavors of those, but I'll leave that for later because I know we're short on time.
Okay, thanks, Nadia. And Sean from SuiNS, any words to say?
Yeah, I'm going to just do a plug. So SuiNS.io, our testnet auction is live now. If you want to get a .sui name, please go ahead, check us out. Get comfortable with the auction. It's a second price blind auction. It's really important for us to have a fair and honest distribution of names. And so we put a lot of engineering investment in building an auction that allows us to do that. So please check it out, SuiNS.io. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Sean. And Fodé? Oh, you're on mute. And Fodé?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes. So I just wanted to thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it. Just for able to just share my ideas and just on this stage with such smart people. For me, I just want to plug in Mamoru. Mamoru basically is if anybody's building on Sui right now, or Aptos, or even EVMs actually, we are able to help you monitor your smart contracts and do real-time event monitoring, actually in real-time incident monitoring, where you can deploy your own daemons on our blockchain using either a WASM daemon or a SQL daemon, and write your own query rules for incident reporting, and we can do it in real time. And if you want to know more about it, just come talk to me. And like I said, we fully support Aptos and fully support Sui, even on mainnet on day one. So please come talk to me if necessary. So thank you so much again.
Thanks, Fodé. Awesome. And Jasmine, would you like to close it off with a final statement?
Okay, so our priority is to help our first batch of members to raise more money and gather their tokens listed in some mainstream exchanges, like OKX and KuCoin, something like that. If you are interested in joining us and building on in the Move system, please click the top tweet of our Steward Twitter and just apply for it. We will reach out very soon. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you to all the panelists for the Move ecosystem panel. It was slightly shorter, but actually we went full time to 40 minutes. So we did okay. Thank you all.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. Great time to you.
Have a good night. Bye.
Yeah.